Looks like we're live. I'm going to tag a bunch of people to see if I can get them to jump in and share this live stream with me and Michael Lassen, because you just don't know how lucky you are to be getting this guy's time. Okay, I'm doing a whole bunch of invites here, so bear with me. All right, it's taken a minute. There we go. We'll just call it good right there. Michael is watching. Bring him on camera. All right, here we go. We're adding.
Hey, man.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Doing good. I am amazing, thank you. It's been a wonderful day, the hottest day of the year. So first time we have air conditioning on.
Oh, but you live in Cyprus, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be fooled by his accent, you guys. The hottest day of the year for him is not 72 degrees Fahrenheit. It's actually probably yeah. So looks like we got Lyndon on the line so far. Howdy, Lyndon. We're going to try something kind of cool, aren't we, Michael? We're going to try to just have you run a coaching test on me.
Yeah, I mean the story is that it was actually around 4 hours ago. I had a really cool coaching session with a top goalkeeper here in Europe, and I did something new I hadn't done before with him, and it worked really well. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to be on tonight with you guys, and it would kind of make sense to take it into a speaker's context. And yeah, so we can do it in all kinds of different contexts with you as the example.
Okay.
But yeah, I like to share something new. I like to do things that are new, and since one of the things I teach and coach a lot about is speed of implementation, it seemed kind of fitting that there would only be a 4-hour time span between doing something for the first time and present it in public.
Absolutely. And I am, there's a couple of things I want to do here first. I want to champion the idea of speed of implementation, because speed of implementation is what has me doing the work I'm currently doing instead of still focusing on coaching speakers on storytelling and presentation skills, which I was doing not too long ago, right? But I had a quest, and I really hadn't defined it all that clearly, although I knew it was inside of me. And that quest was like, it was really to get to the most high leverage thing that I could teach people that would help them to succeed in their online expert business, whatever it was, whether it was coaching, author, some sort of specialist, topic expert. That's what I've been working on, and that's what I've been trying to do. And I've been coaching speakers because for a long time I thought to myself, well, speaking is about the most high leverage activity you can do. Yeah, and you know, I mean, for 1 hour of your time, the potential impact is just off the charts, to your income, to your influence, to your brand, all of those things. And so then I thought, well, that's about as foundational as I can get. But through digging and asking questions and self-reflection, and I sort of went through a journey where I now say that the most powerful thing you can do is to really focus on developing legitimate, I want to stay away from the word authentic, so I'll say, you know, like real trust. Yeah. Focus on building trust and expertise, and that makes all the other stuff easier. And
yeah,
so,
and I think one of the, if I can just add to that, is one of the things where I'm really happy hearing you saying that, is that these days it's so easy to look the part. It's so easy to fake it, whether you're never gonna make it or not. You know, with click funnels, and you know, you can outsource and have things set up literally in 24 hours. That's gonna make you look the part. Yeah. But actually, you know, being able to do the things and and put out the right vibes and attract the right people and so on and so forth. I
Yeah.
agree 100%.
Yeah.
Trust is needed for that.
Yeah. I want to get back to what we're originally talking about, but I think that to build trust is it requires two pieces primarily, as I see it currently, and one of those is proof of your expertise, right? And that's the part where I
Yeah.
think a lot of the people, a lot of the fakers kind of fail. It's a lot of hype. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's the old razzle dazzle, you know. So, but that having been said, I brought that up because a lot of people in this group are coaches who look at speaking as a means to an end. And I don't think it'll probably matter all that much to what you're going to teach us and show us, but I thought I'd make that clarification for the sake of the audience. Now,
yeah, and also, if I can add to that, I think one of the really interesting things about speed of implementation is that, first of all, if we're talking about personal branding and trust, one of the best ways of doing that is through consistency
yes,
and through sharing who you are consistently. Now,
yes,
sharing who you are really requires more than anything speed of implementation, because the longer you
yeah,
wait by sharing something, the more likely is it that some type of filters are going to pop up. So speed of implementation forces you to show you who you are, and not only to your audience, but also having self-awareness, because that means that you meet yourself where you are exactly at this point in time. And you're actually acquiring real-time, precise data of who you are, where you are. And so you cannot have that consistency without speed of implementation. That was one of my big epiphanies when I attended Brendan Bouchard's Experts Academy for the second time 2.5 years ago. He said the number one thing for experts industry is consistency. And I
couldn't
went, you
agree
know what?
more. Yeah,
You cannot be consistent without speed of implementation. Perfectionism completely off the table, and faking it too, because you cannot fake anything consistently. Whether it be
and not
orgasms, expert, or what have you, it's
yeah.
impossible.
Well, you
Bad
just
joke.
said
Sorry.
that speed it that no, that's good. You just said that speed of implementation uh, gets around the sort of filters that will pop up, and I want to explore that a little bit because that's fascinating. I talk about speed of implementation and consistency, as we all should, because it's not just lip service. It's not just a buzzword idea. It's really legitimately powerful. But what you just did was you brought up a whole other kind of dimension to it, Michael, where, if I understand you correctly, what you just said was, and this is great, if you're quick to implement, you don't give yourself time to sort of filter it, and also the so you come out more authentic, right? You come out more as who you
Yeah.
genuinely are. Let's say this: you come out more genuine. Let's avoid the A word.
Yeah. Genuine work.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome. I saw that Sarah Griffiths jumped in on this live stream, and I feel like, for some reason, I feel like Sarah's just going to really resonate with that idea. If we wait too long, we start to sort of analyze, and we start to package, and we start to, deliberately frame things with strategy and stuff like that. And while on the one hand, you do need to be strategic in the sense that you need to be focusing on letting people know who you really are and what your expertise really is. On the other hand, it's much more genuine if it comes out without a whole bunch of sort of after the fact window dressing. Am I tracking
Yeah,
that right? Does that sound right?
yeah, absolutely. Because I'm a huge strategic thinker as well, and you want to have that be sort of, I guess, as a background thing, as something you schedule time for, if you will. So you have the best of both worlds. You have the strategic thinking, either done, on your own, or even better with the qualified people.
Yeah.
Ideally, again, who know, like, and trust you. And
Yeah.
then on the basis of that, then you want to have the speed of implementation. And so
Yeah.
it's almost like a dance between the two things.
Yeah.
And you get the best of both worlds.
Well, so let's do the gratuitous bit where you give us some version of your resume and track record, just so they know. I know it's cliche, but
Yeah.
tell us who
and
you are,
and
my
and
friend.
and yeah, exactly, because that's the thing. Whenever I'm watching trainings, interviews, I always take a deep breath in when someone is about to go into their story,
Yeah, their
because either
spiel.
it's going to be a soft story, or is they are doing it to build the brand, create connection, etc. And really, yeah, I want to mention a couple of things, and I want to make them relevant,
Yeah,
and talk about why those things made me who I am today. And so it's not just story.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's something behind it. So my story really started waking up one afternoon when I was 20, and I was flipping the channels, and I saw this huge American guy, Tony Robbins, obviously. And I thought, what the fuck is that? And before I was about to flip to another channel, he talked about phobias. And I had two major ones, so it caught my attention. And I actually used speed of implementation without having any idea about what it was.
Yeah.
Looking at the clock, saying, okay, it's 3:30. I can make it into the central bookstore and buy his book, and I can be back before dinner time, and I can start reading it, because I found that I wanted to get rid of my phobia. And so I did. And I came back and I read it. I got to the point where he has a drill about a phobia. I did it. And lo and behold, 10 minutes later, I could think about needles for the first time in
Hmm.
15 years without flinching and going into panic mode. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I asked my mom, who had been working in psychology and with psychiatric stuff for years and years, and say, hey, do you know how long it takes usually to work with a phobia? And she was like, well, typically 3 to 6 months, you slowly expose yourself. And I went, wait a minute, there's something here.
Right.
Looking back, I really think that was the time where I realized there's something to it. There's something really interesting here. And so I was absolutely caught up by what was possible. And I think it was like 2 months later, I was at the first workshop with Richard Bandler, who was one of the founders of neurolinguistic programming, which Tony started with.
Hmm.
He never finished it. He also used speed of implementation, and dare I say it worked out really well for him, actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, I got fascinated about how the mind worked, how the brain worked, and how you could actually use it. And so I took all of Richard Bandler's trainings in '97, which in hindsight was too much. And then I got really good results with clients, but the damnest thing was that the phone wasn't ringing off the hook.
Hmm.
And I was like,
Hmm.
that's that shouldn't be like that. People should
Yeah.
recognize how good I am, and everything.
Right.
We should all live happily ever after.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I was very fortunate to get introduced to direct response marketing and some of the best people in the business, and so that also created a lifelong love for that business. And especially when I realized that there were so many things where things were crossing over, because ultimately marketing is also about psychology. It's about persuasion, um, and personal development is about persuading yourself to do the right things, what you want to do. So
Yeah.
basically, for 20 plus years, I've been fascinated with both personal development and transformation, but also marketing and business.
Yeah. And what do you do now?
Well, right now it's really interesting because I have been the last couple of years. I've sort of very been behind the scenes. First of all, a couple of personal things happened. My mom passed away before we moved to Cyprus 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and we had our third kid last year. So I've sort of been making decisions about what to focus on, because I literally have 10 things that I would be thrilled to have one of my kids do for the rest of their lives. I mean,
Right.
it's that significant and powerful. So
Hmm.
I have really stepped in it big time in terms of not being decisive enough, because the thing is, you can't brain yourself with 10 things, no matter how much you love them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, probably come up with a metaphor. You can't have 10 serious relationships going at the same time. At
Right.
least I wouldn't know how to.
But
So I'm in a
Michael,
really interesting point where I've chosen now
but
one thing more
Michael,
than
wait a
anything.
minute. I've got so many things I'm good at. If I focus on one, I'll deprive the market of all the others.
No, that's the thing we have to realize is that once we really help someone with one thing, the irony is that they want us then to help with a bunch of other things, whether we're qualified or not. That's the sometimes illogical
Yeah.
and crazy thing. So, for example, one of my favorite stories from one of my marketing mentors, Dan Kennedy, is that he's been married 4 times, 2 of them to the same woman, and he has no idea what happened any of the time. And his point is that during the mastermind meetings, he's having people pay, I think it's $35,000 a year. People will come up to him in the breaks and ask him for relationship advice. And he looks them straight in the eye and says, you know what, Bucko, you should know better than this. You know that I am the worst person on the planet to ask for this, but they still do. So yeah, so the point is that that's the liberating thing, is that once you
Yeah.
decide on one thing, and ideally it's the one thing you have the most passionate about, and it's the one where you might not be the best, but you have a different angle to it than everybody else.
Yeah.
Then as you start helping people with that, the funny thing is that they will want to have you help with the other things that you're also passionate about. It's the
So,
damnest thing, but it's such a
well,
liberating thing to realize.
well, and so what was I just saying earlier? I was just saying that the most foundational thing you can do is to focus on developing trust.
Yeah, exactly. That's
When
the
you
thing.
develop trust, uh, I mean, combined with a growing audience, of course, you'll never be successful. I don't suppose if one person trusts you implicitly, but I mean, maybe
If
what if
it's
that
Elon
one person
Musk,
was
maybe then.
Elon Musk, right, or Bill Gates? Yeah, but the point is, and I love the example here of Dan Kennedy. I am currently in the process of crafting a narrative that explains to part of my audience why I'm now so evangelistic on this idea of your brand and building it with social media, and how that relates in my mind in a straight line to having been training speakers just a year ago, right? And
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense, because the thing is that I was always looking for the most foundational, most high leverage thing I could teach people. That's always been my goal. And from
yeah,
speaking, it went to this, and so here I am. But what's fascinating, to your point, is that many people who have already shown they know, like, and trust me, and I don't mean to be crass with this, but who have said they trust me with their credit cards, have come to me and said, "Oh, you're doing that now? I'm in."
yeah,
Right?
exactly. There
Whereas
you
on the
go.
surface, it may look like a total non sequitur. They're like, "Yeah, oh, of course, yeah, you're going to manage my content and social media for me and grow it and help me grow my brand. Sign me up. Where do I sign?" And if I didn't have foundational trust with people, I don't believe that would have been possible. But I have served these people like fanatically, as hard as I could. I served them as hard as I could with everything I did prior to this, and so it makes it's like it's a unique function of social media, I believe, where if we build a brand that's based in genuineness and integrity and honesty and transparency and those really kind of core tenets, um, people want us to change. They want to see us evolve. They want to go on that journey with us.
Yeah, and I also think that's one of the most important things about branding and social media is that there is a story arc, there is momentum, there is movement. I've seen people have great success at the surface level in social media, but I also see some of them repeating the same story, repeating the
Yeah.
same jokes, repeating the same mishaps and what have you again and again, and it's like
Shenanigans.
it's like I hate to be judgmental, but like the losers are staying and the winners are moving on, and
Yeah.
unless that's what you prefer, which can be a valid business point. Just look at the Kardashians. I suggest that going for winners long term is going to be the way to go. And tracking that back to speed of implementation is interesting, because one of my sayings or sound bites is that winners respect action, and they respect taking action, where let's say non-winners, aka losers, they are more attracted to perfectionism. But winners don't respect perfectionism because they know it's fake. Because that's not how they got there. So I think that's a really important decision to make. Who do you want to attract? Because you cannot attract winners and losers at the same time. It's impossible. They think different. They have different values. They behave differently. They have different mindsets and so on and so forth. You cannot attract both at the same time.
Yeah.
So it is. I know. Is you have to make that choice.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make that choice, you're not going to attract any of them, and you might as well, give up, because that's going to be the end result. I think that's the ultimate choice we have to make. Are we going after winners or losers?
I love that, man. That is good. You can't attract them both at the same time. Steve Weiss, my friend, are we going after winners or losers? Answer in the comments.
Yeah, please
do.
So,
all right, Michael, let's jump in, man. Let's see what you've got for us.
Yeah, so let's do the exercise I mentioned in the comment that I just did today with the goalkeeper. So the context for that coaching session I had today was that he absolutely have to change clubs because he was not satisfied with the conditions of his current one. And I wanted to make sure that he was aligned with his full potential. And which has been bigger now, according to him, after we've worked for like 4 or 5 sessions, I think. So I wanted to make sure that he actually believed that his potential was as high as it actually was. And so I asked him an interesting question in terms of that. So I asked him specifically what football club here in Europe would just be above what he thought was possible. And I asked him to rate himself, what did he feel right now that his chances were on a scale from 0 to 10. So I'd love to ask you that question on something that you have as a goal. So whatever goal or aspiration you have, if you could pick one context, I'd love to hear what that could be.
Is it too generic to give an income goal, or will that work?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's perfect.
Okay, great. And I'll give a little bit, just for everybody listening and for you, I'll give a little bit of a kind of a context to why I pick an income goal. I know there's a lot of people out there with funny ideas about money and all that, and that's why I want to give a backdrop to this. Sure. Michael, I think you're somewhat familiar with my past and my childhood, and this isn't the time to go through that whole story. Suffice to say, one of the strongest influences in my young life was that I was literally brainwashed to be what amounted to terrified of money. It was a very, very destructive thing to send me out into the world with. And I've overcome that, but the thing is that before I got my money mindset up to a high level, I got everything else in my life, all my major dimensions, up to a very high level. So physical fitness, emotional fitness, mental fitness, my love, my friendships, all of that stuff, my spiritual life, I raised those all to a very, very nice high level. And the one thing that was sort of lagging behind was getting my money game up where everything else was.
Yeah.
And there's something interesting that happens if you don't have all of your dimensions at least close to each other. It creates a sort of an imbalance, right? A wobble in your ability to manifest, create, produce. And so lately, my sole focus has been on getting my income game, my money game, up where everything else has been for quite a while. So that's the backstory and the context. And now you'd like me to pick a goal that is slightly above what I think is real? Is that right?
Yeah, or what goal you currently have. Either works.
Currently, okay, so my current goal, my current pie, it's not pie in the sky, but my current really big goal is consistent $100,000 months.
Okay. And when would you like to have them? From when?
Yeah, so I think within 18 months.
Okay. So yeah, so let me ask you this: on a scale from 0 to 10, how likely do you think it is that, let's say 12 months? How likely do you think that it is 12 months from now that you have that consistently?
Um,
0 being absolutely no
so
chance, and 10 is a done deal.
yeah, so it doesn't feel in my gut like it'll happen within a year. I think it's about a 6 to give it a
Okay.
number value.
Okay, so you picked 6, so it's slightly more than average, which that's pretty cool for a lot of things. So I'm curious, as you picked the number 6, why didn't you choose a lower number than 6? Why didn't you choose 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Well, I mean, anything below 5 to me would mean that I just don't believe it's that I'm even tracking for it, that I even could, that it's a trajectory I can access. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's why I
and
didn't pick
and for
below
more like,
5.
and what are some of the specific reasons besides that overall thing?
Well, I think sure. I think the main one is just looking at um, the level at which my income has been going up. You know what I mean? And kind
Yeah,
of trying to estimate out a similar trajectory, a similar upward trend to how it's been so far.
yeah. And so, in terms of your own like personal skills and results so far,
Mm-hmm.
what in terms of that made you not go for a lower number?
What made me not go for a lower number in terms of that? Well, um, I guess because if I understand the question correctly, it's got sort of a double negative built into it. Uh, um, I didn't choose a lower number because I have seen in the last, I think about 8 months, I've increased my income, 5 times, something like that. About 5 times from the lowest it was, where I was really kind of licking my wounds after a tough year, and so had some challenges and stuff like that. Um, I committed to this on a personal level, to this idea about really branding myself and really showing up in a certain way. And that from then till now, I went from very, very low months to having some pretty good months now. And the increase has been about 5x. So I've got some proof I can look back on that says, you've got a real shot at achieving the goal of $100,000 months. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, and I'm also curious about your personal skills or mindsets even or beliefs.
Sure.
That what are some of those that made you go or made you not choose a lower one?
So this is an interesting thing for me. Even when I was what I would describe as like totally in the throes of the belief system around money, the emotional world around money that I didn't ask for and I was born into. I've had this experience all my life that when I would say to myself, I'm destined to have a lot of money, I can feel the truth of it at a cellular level. I've always been this way. I never knew
Yeah,
how it was going to happen. I never knew what it was going to look like. But when I say that, even now, even when I say now to you, I know in my fucking DNA that I'm going to have a lot of money. I can feel it. And so I can draw on that experience throughout my life of feeling the truth of that. And that probably is one of the things that kept me from picking a lower number for sure.
yeah. So it's a knowing, it's a belief, and then being able to track it, what's already happened, and project that,
Yeah.
of course, the combination of that. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say so.
Yeah. And so when you think about those things, the fact that you can actually see that, you know what, this is the way it's going, and you have that
Yeah.
knowing, you have that strong belief, you can see the
Mm-hmm.
results that people have already, and you can also future project that that's going to be higher and higher and better
Yeah.
and better. And through you exploring and utilizing and going first in terms of personal branding, what does that allow you potentially to put the number at? Could that allow you to put it higher than a 6?
Yeah. Yeah. It could. It could. The place that I'm at now with my sort of service to the world, to my group, to my coaches, whatever, is, I think I said this to you earlier, it's the most exciting, the most profoundly feeling like I'm in the center of the bullseye of what I've been looking for,
Mm.
that I've gotten to yet. I know the power of what I'm offering people. I know the power of what I'm doing for people, and for that matter, I know that I'm currently, I'm not even asking for an investment for it that matches the power it has.
Yeah.
So one of the things I could do, like, and will do the second time I open the doors on this offer, is the price will be higher.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so the point and the power behind this question, which I really like, and it's funny because I found it in I think it's semi-old sales book that I
Mm-hmm.
only heard one other guy talk about. Anyway, is that when you ask the question that way, why didn't you pick a lower number? Is that when you first had to access the opportunities and pick a number, you had the positive things and the negative things sort of going head to head, and then that made you come up with a number. The thing is, when you ask that question, you are only focusing on the positive things. The negatives are out of the way. So the beautiful thing about it is that once you ask that second question about why didn't you pick a lower number, it taps you right into the positivity. So
I
what I
like it.
did with the goalkeeper is that I basically told him, and he gave some really fantastic answers. I said, you know what, listen back to this session and then write out what you just told me, because that is what's going to guarantee you to get the opportunity, at least, to play for that club. And it was funny because I've used that question for quite a number of years, and I love it. And you can use it for, so I mean, you can use it in sales calls. You can
Mm-hmm.
ask people, so are you interested in this offer? And they say, well, if you had to pick on a scale from 0 to 10, how interested are you in it? It's like, oh, 5. Oh, that's interesting. Well, if why didn't you pick a lower number? And well, they're going to start talking themselves into why it would be a good idea to sign up for your thing. So it can be used in a lot of different ways. And I'm not saying you should use it in relationships for getting, what you want, because that would be manipulative.
Right.
um, Actually, I told my wife, and you might think I'm stupid doing that, but it's a really, really cool way of tapping into the 100% positivity of things.
I
Does that
like
make
that.
sense?
Yeah, no, it makes great sense. And even as you're explaining it, I'm starting to sort of cogitate on, all the good stuff, all the positivity, all the reasons why I can get there, and maybe even sooner than I thought. So,
Yeah, because that's one of the other things you can use is like using that positive question. Say,
hmm
why do I have the potential to make this in 12 months?
hmm
Why am I so tapped into my market that this is going to be a no-brainer or something like that? Where
yeah,
instead of where you use like typically the affirmations of, you know, I make 6 figures every month, and it's
yeah,
like, well, it's you either do or you don't.
yeah,
I mean, that my opinion about affirmations is that if you need to do them, they're not enough. If they work, you didn't need them in the first place.
right.
But asking that question of why first, that removes the resistance. And when you use it with these things, where you have come up with these things in a focused state that's 100% positive,
Mm.
then we're starting to do something that's really powerful.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you help create a focused state that's 100% positive? I'd be
Well,
fascinated to get your
in
2 cents on
that,
that.
well, one of the ways is what we just did,
Yeah.
because when asked that question, you only thought about the positive reasons of why you could get it.
Yeah.
All the negativity was out of the question, was out the
That's
window.
true.
It wasn't
That's
even there.
true. Yeah.
So that it's a really easy way of doing it. There are other things you can do in terms of whether you go into meditation or like energy psychology, tapping. There's a bunch of different ways you can anchor them. If we talked about NLP previously.
Sure.
One of the things I do is that if you cover these 2 points you have with your hand and the other on your back, you're bringing blood back to the frontal part of the brain, and you're covering the back part, which is the old brain. And that has a really powerful effect in terms of hooking you up with your resources. That's a long explanation. But even just doing that will, I mean, from what I've tested, will at least temporarily bypass limiting beliefs. Unfortunately, you can't walk around like this living your life
Says
in
who?
any functional way. Well,
I already go grocery
if,
shopping in a bathrobe.
if you do a crowdfunding for doing a documentary on the works now, you'll have my support.
We're going to finish the interview like this, guys.
Well, I mean, when I coach people, and one of the methods I take people through is when I take people through either literally traumatic things or take them through or go back and analyze big mistakes or failures. I always have them hold like this because it removes the negativity when you do it for a couple of minutes, and it forces your brain into a more powerful, resourceful state. So
I like it.
It makes that drill far more powerful than if I didn't do it.
Very cool. So let's talk a little bit then about what is your primary, not your primary, but your favorite focus within your coaching? Like, if you could do, one highly focused piece of all the coaching you do all the time, what would that look like?
Well, that's actually what I just was partially describing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, is taking people back to failures, mistakes, traumatic experiences that have created some type of limiting beliefs that are still influencing them, and then go back and extracting the either life lessons or business lessons. So we simultaneously let go of the negative emotions around it and get answers that will help them push them forward and give them something positive to focus on instead, that's going to help them achieve the goals. So that dynamic of doing that simultaneously, letting go of the negative emotions and building up self-esteem, self-confidence of being able to do something that very, very few people have ever done, literally, on this planet, is really damn powerful. And then just to give an example of I guess self-deprecating humor and knocking myself on the head is that I've done this for 10 years, or actually 9 years last year, and I've had amazing results with people. I have amazing testimonials, like people who have gone through fucking everything, and in less than an hour all of a sudden they were free. And that's cutting a long story short. But what I hadn't done is I have never really done it. I've done it a couple of times, twice with people if they had two big experiences. I think one time I've done it 3 times. And then last year I realized, wait a minute, why don't I do it more than that and turn that into like what ended up being a success checklist? Because what can be more successful than taking the things that have been holding you back, turning it into something that's going to empower you, and literally have that as a checklist. So that's literally what I'm going to spend 80% of my time on, is building this up as a thing, helping people creating their own unique individual success checklist based off their mistakes, their failures, traumatic experiences, primarily.
Nice.
And it's funny
So,
because actually of 20 plus years of personal experience
mhm.
with personal development transformation, my biggest epiphany was when I decided to do this for myself. And I think I came up with like 18 different checklist points, and I decided to, narrow it down into 10, so it was more manageable, something I could focus on every single day.
Yeah.
And then I was out walking, and I was thinking, like, the last 10 years, what were some of the major bad decisions or mistakes that I made? And then it occurred to me that, wait a minute, if I had taken those decisions through that 10-point checklist, I wouldn't have made a single of them. And I went, fuck, I'll be damned. And then, fortunately, the next thought I had almost was that, you know what? If I take my future decisions through that, I'm going to have no regrets. Because how can you have regret of something where you made that decision from the core of who you are, from something where you've taken something that was disempowering, turn it into something empowering? How could you ever have regrets of a decision like that? I still haven't
Yeah.
found an answer for that.
Yeah. No, it's that's a really clean, concise way of articulating something that I spend a lot of time working on internally, which is to say, how do I get to really sort of bring the core of who I am and what I stand for to the forefront so that I can see it rather than just experience it in this sort of, internal subliminal level, and allow that to guide my decision making, especially the decisions that have the potential to be either in or out of integrity.
Mm.
Interesting. I mean, that is, not to just loop it back around to my own experience, but that's why I'm now talking about building trust and brand and all that stuff, because one of the things that has been a core tenet for me has been, I want to help people, of course, we all do, but I want to help them with what I believe is the most foundational thing that I can, the thing that influences everything else. And that's allowed me to feel confident in making this, what again to some people has seemed like a pivot, to other people has seemed like an obvious iteration, and just feel like, yeah, this is what I'm doing, because it's less about, frankly, it's less about how I look and more about what is the most congruent thing I can do with the pre-existing kind of values I have. Now, Sarah is asking, how do we get the 10-point system? It sounds awesome. I was going to ask you that same question. Is this something that you're prepared to share with people, or talk to
Yeah,
us about that?
I mean, right now I'm doing it myself, taking people through it. Typically, it takes around 5, 6 sessions or hours.
Mm-hmm.
In my
Uh-huh.
case, sometimes a session turns into far more than an hour,
Yeah.
but that's besides the point for now. And then the plan is next year starting to train other people and certify people in doing it, because I
Excellent.
realized that I'm really bad at saying no to people. So I made sure that I've consulted with some of the best people in the world in terms of doing licensing and certifying people, and so I got that covered. But right now it's taking as many people through it as possible, and like with speed of implementation, because once I got that idea, I realized, okay, this turned from something that was really powerful doing it one time into something that can, I mean, possibly even be a movement.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really like about it, also for my own sake in terms of branding, is that it's a thing. It's a thing people can talk about. Like, hey, can I see your success checklist? And it can be a amazing conversation starter.
Yeah.
And it's also something, like, I have to not admit but embrace that, because it's something that you can have that much leverage from focusing on every single day, basically. It doesn't have to be every single day, but something that's ongoing in your mind because you're using it proactively for making decisions, and using it to become better and better at whatever turns up on your checklist. That, of course, that's going to be good for me, and it's going to be good for my brand. And it's also something where I realize I have to, potentially let go of it, because I'm going to certify other people of doing it. And, maybe someone comes up with different ways of utilizing, and that's great. So, for example, one of the ways I thought about it in terms of what you used to focus on with speakers is that taking speakers through it with their signature stories, literally taking them and extracting the best parts, learning experiences, learning lessons, life lessons, business lessons from them, and really integrate it, taking ownership of these lessons. I believe it's going to make you a potentially better speaker, because it's going to project a different type of energy that if you have not integrated emotionally. So you can definitely tell an engaging signature story, and you can still be limiting by it, and it's going to have an effect, definitely emotionally. And I believe that on a leadership level, or even on a spiritual level, if you're starting to tell those stories and you talk about and you demonstrate on an energy level to people that you have grown because of it, I'm really excited to see if that's going to take off, because I believe that's going to be really powerful. But
Very
there's only
cool.
one way to find out.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I love it, man. Well, listen, so Sarah, you asked how to get the 10-point system. What I would suggest to you, if you're interested, is reach out to Michael, just, and talk with him. Anyone else who likes what you're hearing here, same thing. I find Michael to be a very generous and very accessible person. And so I seriously doubt it would be, one of those impossible to connect kind of situations.
No. I mean, feel free to add me and send me a message.
Do you have any final, call to action, anything you'd like to share with people?
I mean, definitely the thing about the speed of implementation. I just posted a keynote on YouTube I did 3 years ago on speed of implementation. If you just type in Michael Lassen speed of implementation on YouTube, you'll find it. Um, I mean, that's what we all need to do, because that's the number one thing successful people have in common. And one of the things that hit me recently, because I've been talking about a lot, is that a lot of people have some reservations about it, have some fears about it, that, they feel like it's going to be a pressure. It's going to be like an excuse to do sloppy work, and some of those things. And it's really not. It's really about tapping into having it as a gear you can tap into as the ideal thing. It's not a pressure. It's not something you have to do, but it is the thing that most successful people have in common, that there is a short time frame as possible between getting an idea, taking the first action step, and making a decision, and taking an action step. And one of the most powerful reasons behind why it's so important, that I like to phrase it as, is that when you're taking action, you're focusing on where you're going. When you don't take action, you're focusing on where you're at. And whether or not you're a law of attraction person to the far left or whatever, or you're the complete opposite, that is such an important thing to realize, is that taking action focuses you on where you're going. And everybody agrees that what you focus on, you get more of. So even that thing alone is such a key insight.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think.
By the way, was there a question? Because I can't follow the questions the way my setup is.
Sarah says, I can relate to not making those same decisions if I had a checklist. I don't see any other questions at this point.
Okay, so that's probably it.
Yeah, we're good. Well, listen, man, thank you so much for the time. I know it's late where you are, and I know you've got small children as well, so, or at least one small child.
They're already sleeping, so
okay.
I'm good. I love doing this. It's my passion, and I choose to believe that the right people for working with me, they can see that, they can sense that, and that's good. And those who are not the best for me, they will be either repulsed or find some good reason or excuse why not to engage further.
Right, exactly.
And that's also one of the things about speed of implementation, is that it literally shows who you are. And I like to ask people this question, is that if you can pick three people from your life that have been a drain, emotionally, physically, mentally, financially, even. If you could take those three people out of your life, would you do that, or at least be tempted? Everybody say yes. And my point then, and the question becomes, well, if you had used speed of implementation, if you had showed those people who you were faster, making faster decisions, could there be a chance that they wouldn't have been in your life?
Right.
And everybody says, God damn it, yeah. So that's the other part of speed of implementation, is that it also has the power of pushing the wrong people away and attracting the right ones, because the right ones are attracted of who you are, not who you pretend to be, or not who they wish you be, because that's going to be very obvious that, he or she is.
So implementation is the method. It's the channel through which what we think about becomes what we do. Implementation is literally the transition from thought to action, and the faster you implement, the faster you become who you're trying to be. The faster you become who you're trying to be, the sooner you create a necessary distance between you and the people in your life and the circumstances in your life that would otherwise be a drain on you. So I completely agree.
Yeah, and it's also the thing about that, the more you're willing to push 100,000 people away, the faster you're going to attract the 1,000 people that's going to make the biggest difference in your life and your business.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. So
and we're like 7 point something billion people on this planet.
Yeah, something like that.
This whole thing that, all we need is 1,000 to be happy and have a solid 6-figure income. So, we're and the other thing I like to point out is that last time I checked, Flat Earth Society had more than 9,000 members. There's a group that meets every week talking about how they've been molested by aliens. They have more than 7,000 members. I think all of us can find 1,000 if we simply show who we are.
There's a tribe out there for everyone except the uncommitted. Yeah. The only people who can't build a tribe are those who don't have the commitment, period. And the commitment shows up through your implementation. That's how we know you're committed. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of blather.
Yeah, and like I said at the beginning, consistency, you cannot do that without speed of implementation.
That's right.
It's impossible.
Awesome, man. Well, Michael, thank you so much, my friend. I hope you guys enjoyed this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And if you have questions, let me know. I'll check in for sure and follow up on it.
Excellent.
And feel free to add me on Facebook.
All right, man.
Adios. Thanks.
Thanks.